Hello and welcome to another video. It has been a while. I've been stuck min-maxing the character a bit too long. The last few rolls that I tried to get on my gear it taken me quite a while to farm, but thanks to the buffs it ended up speeding up the process. So everything you're seeing in the background now is just some gameplay of the build currently. This is all Awakener 8, and the Guardian kills, the Elder Slayers, they're all with Ancestor Call supported, which isn't even the single target setup, so this is just the mapping setup, and they're just melting instantly. We currently have about 50 million Shaper DPS or something, and that's being even considerate. It's only having 20 rage, which a lot of times we have 50 in actual boss fights and stuff like that, so we've been pretty safe to say that it's at least 50 mil, but can easily go to 60, 70 mil plus even. So it's absolutely insane, and this is with Frostblades, which is supposed to be only a clearing skill, but definitely has a lot of single target, especially on Berserker with the Eternity Shroud. So in a bit I'm gonna go over my gear, but the build has definitely been very enjoyable. I usually don't play melee builds, so this is a first for me, or a second I guess, and definitely Frostblades. I mean, a lot of people don't call it melee anymore at this point, since I hit once and it still clears my whole screen, if not a bit further. So it's definitely a very fast mapping build, and on top of that, I mean, the single target is absolutely insane. You're gonna see Awakener 8. Skip the first two phases, since I mean they just fall over instantly, pretty much even without Flasks. And this is the final phase, which I almost one-shot him before he even did anything. And then you'll see Uber Elder, the final showcase over here. Just when the ad phase is over, they pretty much just instantly die. So it's been pretty insane. Did not expect the build to have this much damage in the end, but I mean, it's definitely because of my gear as well. Once I go over my gear, I have very min-maxed gear at this point, which is definitely achievable with Harvest League, because you can craft some pretty insane stuff, as you've probably seen already. So hello and welcome to the live overview now of the gear and everything I've done with the build. So first of all, before we go depth, I'm gonna remove this, but pretty much we have Enduring Cry on our left click, and we do have this node over here, Call to Arms, which makes War Cries instant. So on your left click, pretty much no matter what you're doing, as long as you have left click pressed in, so even if you're attacking, moving, leap slamming, it will cast it on cooldown. Which is really good, since it does heal you 2000 life over 1 second with a 6-second cooldown. And on top of that, you see the endurance charges, they have a 10-second buffer before they start going down. So if you just keep casting this, you'll permanently have 3 endurance charges, which does help you to be less squishy. But for now, I'm gonna turn it off, of course, since else you're gonna keep hearing that. So first of all, the passive tree, it's pretty common, I guess, for any Berserker with swords. You go to the ranger area to get the sword nodes. You want this crit, some life, Jewel Socket of course, and then we do take Winter Spirit, which gives us the other 40% conversion, since we already have 60% conversion on our Frostblades. So then 100% of our physical damage is converted to cold. As you can see, we're only dealing cold and chaos damage. So then again, just some sword nodes, some crit nodes, some life. This pen here. Did recently get the cluster jewel. I only changed this when I hit 97. So before, when I was 94, 95, I didn't have this. Also, it's not the perfect cluster, since the one I wanted had some issues crafting it to harvest, with some mods on PODB having the wrong tags, and it didn't work out. So the ones we did sell for is this, just attack damage, attack speed, some accuracy. And then I did take the both leech ones, since they also give quite a decent amount of attack speed while leeching, which we're pretty much always leeching as long as we're hitting something. And then attack damage. On top of that, we can lose at this point, because we do have the life and mana leech on these two. So remove this. So if you don't have the cluster, definitely take this point. That's what I had before I got the cluster. We're also using 2 fights of survival. You can easily get a corrupted blood on one of these, since they're a very cheap jewel. Some life, and then just more crits here, and pretty much basic nodes. Now, I did recently unspec this, which is 12 crit multi for 1 point, which you definitely want to take. So if I get level 100 on this character, I'll pretty much get this point, and then these 2 points for some life and armor, which I recently unspec those two to get the cluster jewel. So that will be the finished skill 3. Now, you can easily drop some damage, because we definitely have way too much damage. Weapons helped. We definitely have too much damage, so you can take more life if you want. I mean, there's a lot of life nodes available for you to take from, but that's our skill tree for now. Ascendancy, pretty much just flawless savagery, you always want that. Aspect of Carnage, the main thing for Berserker, 40% more damage. It does give you 10% increased damage taken, which makes you a bit more squishy, but with Enduring Cry, 3 endurance charges and 6.2k life, we're actually not that squishy. And on top of that, we're pretty much permanently freezing everything, except like Awakener or something like that. So we're not that squishy. You do die occasionally, so it's definitely not the hardcore build, at least not the way I've built it. But you can easily drop quite a lot of damage to get even more tanky if you wanted to. So now the gear, I'm gonna go over all my gear and how I crafted it. This might not be the best option to craft it, but it's definitely pretty min-maxed gear at this point. So first of all, our weapons, they're pretty much identical. The way I crafted them is with Zeal Essences to guarantee the tier 1 attack speed, because I really want the attack speed. Not only does attack speed scale really well, but also precision turn off. So it does scale very well with attack speed, and also it just makes your leap slam feel so much nicer when you have that insane attack speed. So pretty much just spam those until I hit tier 1 flat fizz flaring, and then after that I just multi-modded them out and I kept doing remove cold, add cold. Now originally I was going for a high flat cold damage roll, and I had tier 2 flat cold on both weapons, but after taking POB it turns out that a fizz extra cold gives me a lot more damage. I think it was like 5% more damage for each weapon. So then I went back to crafting until I hit it on both of them and defined them pretty well. I think they're about 460, 467 PDPS, and then the fizz is extra cold, so definitely very high damaging weapons. Next, the helm. Now you do want an accuracy roll and an int roll anywhere on your gear pretty much. I just chose to put it on my helm, both of them. The accuracy roll would be nice on a ring, especially like this one for example, since it would also benefit from the attack quality on there. But I do have 100% hit chance anyway, so it didn't matter too much. On top of that, unfortunately the helm I did get, the only base I could find that's shaper with the enchant is I-84, which means I could only get a tier 2 accuracy roll, since tier 1 you need I-85, but it's good enough for me. So we did get it int with essence spamming, and then the accuracy in the lining you can harvest craft. It does take quite a long time to get accuracy because there's a lot of attack rolls on the suffixes. And then double tier 1 life, divined pretty nicely, makes it 132 life helmet as well. And then we just crafted a +1 AoE gems, because our hatred and our otherwise benefit from this. If you want a more tanky, you can craft physical damage taken as fire damage, which would make you quite a bit more tanky. Next, the amulet, one of the harder pieces to craft, with life, fizz extra cold, non-kills extra kills, tier 1 elemental resistance, which is a pretty rare roll, crit multi and attack speed. And the way I crafted the amulet, I think I started with the base, which had tier 1 all res, tier 1 life and fizz extra cold, and then I think I augmented it with kills modifier, which could only give me the non-kills extra kills. And then after that I think I had a crit augment to get the crit multi, and then the last one, the attack speed, which I originally didn't have. I had just crafted global crit chance on this, but then I just kept doing add speed modifier and then remove add speed modifier till I hit attack speed. It did take me like 12 tries, and speed modifiers are quite expensive, so I did spend quite a lot of time and currency in this amulet, with the crit augment as well. But it's definitely worth it. I mean, this amulet's absolutely insane. On top of that, you also need a bit of dex, since if I take this off, you'll see my weapons get unequipped. So you definitely need some dex, which the easiest ways to get it is on the amulet. Next up, the body, Eternity Shroud, pretty much the whole reason all our items are shaped, which also made some items crafting a bit harder, since they had to be shaped as well. Just make sure if you have Eternity Shroud, they're all on here. Gain 5% of elemental damage, extra kills. You want to make sure that's 5%, not 3 or 4, so that's the most important rule. Also got 20 equality on this, +1 life per 2 quality, so a bit of extra life on here as well. Next, the boots, I suppose. Probably seen a lot of boots similar to this league. Tier 1 life, double tier 1 res, 35 move speed and tailwind. We also got cannot be frozen on here. You can change that out, but you'd have to use a freeze flask at that point. So I just like having it on the boots. As for the enchant, we got attack and cast speed difficult recently, just makes our leap slamming a bit faster while mapping. You could get 10% pen here if you haven't skilled recently, so that would help a bit with damage for bossing, but you definitely don't need it. So gloves, I made a video about crafting these. We did end up getting 3 whites on them, so they're completely finished. Now I could realistically, I was gonna change the craft on this, damage while leeching, but unfortunately I haven't found a tier 1 yet, so I might change that out. But the +1 melee strike range is also nice, so it's up to you what you want to craft on here. You can even craft some extra life if that's what you want. Next, the rings, I suppose with this ring, so Assassin's Mark on hit, tier 1 life, crit multi, attack speed, flat fizz, all tier 1 rolls, and we have damage crafted on here, so pretty offensively based rings, both of them actually, because this one as well has melee damage, life, wed, and flat fizz. And then for the craft, I had crit chance and crit multi if you've shattered an enemy recently first on here, but we don't really need the damage or the crit chance. We have 100% crit even without a diamond flask. So I did go for the +1 minimum frenzy charges, since we don't have any frenzy generation on bosses, so it definitely helps a bit for bossing right there. And then I think the belt, pretty much life, wed, and triple tier 1 resists, because we do need the resist a bit. We have quite a bit over lightning res now, but that's just because I got all my resist rolls on all my gear is all tier 1 rolls and max divined, so that's why we're a bit over res cap, but for the most part you do need the resist somewhere. You can also get, instead of this 20% damage, we could roll for another prefix, which wouldn't be too hard, adding a cold modifier and getting damage against chilled enemies. But I decided to keep the belt like this because it looks pretty nice and it's more versatile for other builds as well. Then our jewels, so this one 5% XP, 12 multi, 40 life, and then the other one is my onslaught jewel, which is flat fist to swords, onslaught, life, and attack speed. I did spend quite a lot of time as well rolling all my gear to have like perfectly divined in most spaces. I think I'm missing like 1 crit multi on the amulet, 1 crit multi on the ring, but most items are divined pretty well. Next to Flasks, Azir's Promise, Taste of Hate. You definitely want these two at least. The Lion's Roar, it does give 20% more damage, but I do know that some people don't like the knockback that you get from this, but it's not too big a deal once you learn to play with it. Also, it does give plus 3000 armor, so this is still a Grand Flask, don't neglect that. Bald Fate, before Bald Fate I had a Diamond Flask here, which then after realizing that I had kept crit anyway, even without the Diamond Flask, I did switch to Bald Fate because it gives a lot more damage. And then the last flask, you can choose what you want here. I do recommend something that's a magic flask, so you can get a curse removal. Since we have free anti-freeze here, we have a corrupted blood jewel, so we don't need bleed and freeze removal. But curse removal, I think for mapping is quite important as well. We did go for the basalt since we already have a granite here. So the basalt is just a bit more tanky. What you can also do is go for a silver flask actually. You can drop the onslaught and then you'd have onslaught for bossing as well. Because of silver flask, that's even more offensive. But we have enough damage, so we went a bit more defensive here. Next, I actually don't think I went over my jewels. So I do have a Watcher's Eye here, crit chance, crit multi with hatred. I think this build is for 50 or 55 exalts, something like that. Which is actually cheaper than it usually is in other leagues for these two modes. Triple crit multi life, triple crit multi life, and then this one is quad multi, and then this one's triple crit multi and attack speed. So those are the jewels. Now for the gems, we have Frostblades, Ruthless, Wed, Melee Fizz, Hypothermia, and Awaken Multi-Strike. And if I want a map, I just swap out Ruthless for Awaken Ancestral Call, and that will be the mapping. I mean, still have way more than enough damage even with that setup, but if you really want to do Awakener or Rune Builder, I think those are the only two bosses I swap out for Ruthless, which I could even do them with Ancestral Call, but it's just for that extra little bit of damage. Auras, we have Hatred, Herald of Ice, Herald of Purity, with Enlighten. You do need an Enlighten 4 I believe for this, and then we also running a level 1 Precision over here, so those are our auras. If you don't have the Enlighten, you can drop Herald of Purity of course. Then we have Enduring Cry, Berserk, and Blood Rage. So Blood Rage, of course, Frenzy Charge generation for mapping, and even on bossing you want to use this because it does give you the attack speed. Berserk, it just pretty insane actually. I never used it before, but it does give you quite a lot more damage and attack speed. It also gives you less damage taken, so it's pretty insane defensively as well. It gets damage taken, Mortal Call. And then we have an Ice Golem, Ancestral Warchief, and Ancestral Protector. Now it can only have one totem, but what we do is we use Ancestral Protector as our totem for the attack speed, and then we use the Val Ancestral Warchief since that allows you to have two totems. So we use one Val Ancestral Warchief and one Ancestral Protector, so we get both buffs here that we benefit from. And then we have Leap Slam with Blood Magic, Fortify, and faster attacks. Pretty standard setup right there. So that's the character. It's pretty min-maxed, and I don't think I'm gonna upgrade it any further than this. I've pretty much already spent like almost all my money on this character. Anytime I get any money, I would just spend it upgrading. We've done a lot of crafting. I mean, we still have quite a lot of crafts here, so I'll see what the next project is gonna be. But this is the character for now. I haven't decided if I'll sell all the gear and the whole character and invest in something new, or I might just keep this, since I mean I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out and how min-maxed it is. So we'll see, and I'll see you in the next video with the next project.